And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. It is time again for the John Lavenia Success Mastermind for this Wednesday, 11/11/20, November 11th day. I'm your host for this morning, Glen Henderson. And before we go any further, I would like to take one moment in honor of Veterans Day here in the United States of America to quote from the great author George Orwell, who said, "We sleep soundly in our beds because rough men stand ready in the night to visit violence upon those who would do us harm." My thanks to all active and retired veterans of the United States military. Thank you for keeping us free. Now, housekeeping. Let's have a look at the old mastermind schedule. You are in our general session at the moment. Right after this, you can come on and say hello to us in the hospitality suite. Today at 4 p.m. U.S. Eastern time, which I believe is 9 p.m. London time, I think, or it's 10 p.m. London time. Books for Britain with Mandy Anderson. An insightful and revealing conversation about the book du jour, Life and Business Tools with Adrian and Ego at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then again this evening, 9 p.m. Eastern, it's Your Humble and Obedient Servant with Networking Magic, the tools and techniques to build your contact list and grow your business with the power of networking. Now, I hope everybody's got a pen and paper, as I suggested earlier. Grab a pen and paper because we're going to get some work done today. And the topic, if you like, for this morning is there will be a quiz. Matter of fact, there will be a quiz right now. And it's based on this question as I get to sharing my screen here. The question is, how's your attitude?
Great.
Well, we're going to get into that a little bit, and we're going to show run us through a little quiz here, and let's find out. Now, when I say attitude, when we talk about attitude, we're talking about the general frame of mind, the general state of mind through which we view our days and the world. Now, you might use a slightly different kind of definition, and that's perfectly cool. But I think we can generally agree on what constitutes a good definition of attitude. Yes? So then let's move it right along. Here's how this test is going to go. It's going to be 30 questions. And excuse me, the 30 questions, you're going to just mark a note on your paper there, score yourself, give yourself a score between 1 and 5 on each of these statements. And they'll be kind of split, as we'll see. And the first part 1 equals all the time, or pretty much all the time. 5 equals never. Kind of picking up. You with me so far? Give me a thumbs up. You're still with me. Part 2, 1 equals never, and 5 equals all the time. And then at the end, add up all your scores. Ready? Ready? Let's go. Number 1, I watch the news. 1 never, or 5? 1 always, or 5 never? I talk about the news. 1 always, or 5 never? Or somewhere in between. 2, 3, 4. You can kind of grade yourself there. I'm affected by or talk constantly about bad weather. That's a big one. Interestingly enough, I am angry with someone for more than an hour. That is, when I get angry with someone, it hangs around me for more than an hour.
1
always, 5, never. When something goes wrong, I blame others. 1, always, 5, never. When something goes wrong, I dwell on self-blame. 1, always, 5, never. I bring my problems to work. 1, always, 5, never, somewhere in between. I talk about my problems at work. I take my work problems home. 1, always, 5, never, somewhere in between. Where's your score so far? Don't tell me. Don't want to know. Not pointing fingers. I'm not going to call anybody out. Just keep track. Now that's part 1. 1, always, 5, never. Everybody with me so far? Let's move on to part 2. And here, 1, never, 5, always. Or somewhere in between. First, I'm an enthusiastic person. 1, never, 5, always. I am truly happy on the inside. I look for the good in things. 1, 5, 1, never, 5, always. Somewhere in between. Oh, by the way, did I mention that scoring yourself here is probably going to involve a kind of a quick sort of mental conversation with the person in the mirror? An honest conversation. Don't have to tell me, but let's move right along. Next, I usually talk about the good in things. 1, never, 5, always, or somewhere in between. I say why I like things and people, not why I don't. 1, never, 5, always. When something bad happens, I look for the opportunity. I forgive people who have offended or hurt me. 1, never, 5, always, or somewhere in between. I encourage others. 1, never, 5, always, somewhere in between. And as a corollary, I encourage myself. 1, never, 5, always. Moving right along. I use positive language. I avoid can't and won't. 1, never, 5, always. I have a positive self-image. I exercise choices that build my positive attitude. I help others without expectation or scorekeeping. 1, never, 5, always, somewhere in between. I'm more motivated to help people than I am to make money. 1, never, 5, always, or somewhere in between. I am happy about myself and my life. I work on my attitude every day.
Glen, slow down.
I listen to attitude podcasts or recordings, and I attend seminars and webinars. The reason I'm going fast, Bill, is because these should be gut reaction answers. I ignore people who try to discourage me or who tell me I can't do something. 1, never, 5, always, somewhere in between. I count my blessings every day.
That wasn't a good one.
I believe in myself. 1, never, 5, always, somewhere in the middle. Okay. Add them up. Take a moment. Add them up.
Okay.
And here we go. Again, not going to ask anybody to tell me what your score is. That's between you and the person in the mirror.
Glenn, you missed one. If you go back one page.
Sure.
So we got 29 items.
Ah.
You missed if I have nothing nice to say.
Thank you, John. If I have nothing nice to say, I say nothing. 1, never, 5, always, or somewhere in between. Got 30. Thank you for catching that, John. I blew right by it. All right. Got you 30. Here come the scoring ranges. Now, these are general sort of ideas. And by the way, I picked this up from a book that I'm reading right now. Stuart was saying he's always got a couple dozen books on the go, kind of similar here. The book that I'm working with here is this one. Little Golden Book of Yes Attitude by Jeffrey Gitomer. Be talking about that a little later on. I got these ideas from Jeffrey in the book, and this kind of scoring range is what's, here you go. If your total score is 135, between 135 and 150, you have got a positive attitude. Listen, you got it going on. You're the greatest because you think you are. Now, does that sound cocky? Does that sound arrogant? Well, that's a separate question. We begin our journey toward success here, don't we? And so moving right along, between 120 and 134, you've got a good attitude. You also understand what it will take to improve. You got a pretty good idea where you're going. Go for it. Keep up the good work.
I would say that's right.
Between 75 and 119, there's a bunch of people who think they have a positive attitude and actually don't. Does this sound harsh? Does this sound like I'm beating somebody up? Well, yeah. It's certainly not my intention to beat anybody up. The thing of it is, it's certainly not my intention to beat anybody up. The thing of it is, if, as the old saying goes, if the shoe fits, perhaps it's time to start shopping at a different store. Does that make sense? So 50 to 74, afraid there's a negative attitude there. And again, I'm not going to ask for anybody's score. If I've gone through this honestly, I'll have a decent idea of where I am. If your score falls in there, 50 to 74, I'm going to recommend, as you saw on the page that I come back to, several books on attitudes, podcasts, and you'll need to consider making some adjustments to your personal habits, your work habits. Someone has mentioned a miracle morning, some meditation, some mindfulness. Get into the practice of start. As John said one time, start with one affirmation. Most people can't handle half a dozen or 15. Start with one. Kuwait, right? Every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. And don't give up. You will get there little by slowly, as a friend of mine used to say. And if your score is 29 to 49, yep, you've got some work to do, and it can be done. Let me share a couple of resources with you. These are books that have sustained me over the years. The Power of Positive Thinking, The Magic of Thinking Big. And we've talked about some of these books over time. And Life is Tremendous. That was one of my early gifts as a child. Changed everything for me. Psycho-Cybernetics. Yeah, Glenn, I've heard about these. Yeah, I know all about these books. Have you read them? How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. I just heard this morning the CEO of Dale Carnegie speak at the BNI Global Convention. Absolutely fantastic. The Motivation Manifesto by Brendan Burchard. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, Dr. Joseph Murphy. One of John Lavenia's favorites, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And this little gem, the Little Gold Book of Yes Attitude by Jeffrey Gitomer. 5 pages a day, 10 pages a day. That seemed like a lot? You know what? Start with 1 page a day. And begin to build for yourself the kind of unshakable, positive, forward-looking, optimistic attitude that will power you along on your journey toward the success that you desire. Okay, that's me, done running my mouth. And so let's see who is saying hello. Let's see now. Nikki, and then Dr. Lavenia and Lieutenant Colonel Riggle. Hey, Nikki, how are you?
didn't. Well, actually, my hand was up from the very beginning asking you to go slower, but never mind. I've done it now.
I am sorry. Well, it's kind of a half sorry, not sorry, because really and truly, my intention was to just get the first thing that comes to mind. First thing comes to mind, because a lot of times when we sit and think about things, we have the ability to talk ourselves into the answer that we think we ought to give. Know what I'm saying? And I'm not pointing the finger at you, Nikki, but please go right ahead. Were you just asking me to slow down? I think that's probably Dr. Lavenia.
Hey,
Mark. What's
Glen.
up, John? Uh-oh.
Oops. All right, I just muted myself. I'm gonna lower my hand, click the right button over here. I'm not used to having all these other buttons to click on. Hey, good to see you. Good to see everybody. Happy Veterans Day, and thank you to all who've served, and acknowledgement to our friends across the pond as well for Remembrance Day, which was Sunday apparently. I just found that out. So I'm not in England. I didn't know that. So yeah, these sort of self-tests are interesting. I've seen a few of them. I've never seen this one before. Exactly. I scored 122. So according to the author, I've got a good attitude, and according to myself, and as honest as I'm able to be with myself, I got a good attitude. But I was thinking that, you know, score 135 to 150, the punchline might be you're a liar. I don't know, because the bottom line is you've got some work to do. Who doesn't, right? So no matter what we scored on that, and I think it's truly it's a question of self-awareness and self-honesty, and whether we're willing to expose ourselves to ourselves or do it like in a mastermind group. I'll tell you what my score. That was present time, by the way. I think about when I was doing some training in the world of firearms, right? So we would have qualifications, exams, right? So and one of the things that the range master would say is that this is a snapshot in time. This is how you are at this time, present time, right? So like could you have a bad day? You could. Could you have a bad run? Could you have a good one? Right? Mm-hmm. Anybody ever been to the golf course, right? Something that more people might relate to than weapons. But so you just did this great round of golf, and you're sinking the birdies. And I've never sank a birdie, but if you're a golfer, you probably know what I'm talking about. And so and then haven't you also had the days where, my goodness, is it the club? Is it the weather? Is it the full moon or something? What is happening here? I can't hit anything. So the interesting thing, and the thing that came up for me as I'm examining what I wrote based on what you induced me to write, is this thing of the law of rhythm. The law of rhythm. So this is something that, oh my goodness, you can read about in the Kabbalion. You want to get into some Hermetic, philosophy and things like this, where if you think about a pendulum, the pendulum swings from side to side on a rhythm. And most people, earthlings and people doing the whole human thing, we are often engrossed, I'll speak for myself, engrossed in the drama of that pendulum, right? There's positive things that happen. There's negative things that happen. Going through life, passively, I would call it passively. This is critical. I'm being critical now. Everything's fine. Everything's fine, right? There's never a time to defend one's position. Right? No, hold on a second, right? No, not everything is right. All right. So seeing when that pendulum swings, even in the field of business, opportunity, right? We had big windfalls. Oh, we had a crash, right? In Hermetic philosophy, the idea is that you want to be above the pendulum, right? We could also call this, transcendence, right? People who practice transcendental meditation. It's like, all right, I reside here. The drama of the world resides here. I'm not of that. I may be in that, but I'm not of that, or the other way around. You get what I'm saying, right? Be in this world, but not of this world. Okay, great. So to that degree that I can practice a bit of detachment from the drama of my life. And I think some of those original questions were, were revealing, or you watch the news. Did you come right out? That was like the first one. You watch the news. Man, you lose points on that one. Although we were scoring on a reverse vector, so you actually gain points on that one. But yeah, it's real seductive. Man, there's lots of things screaming for our attention. So I think as a marketer, as someone who, and I'm not a great one, by the way, right? I could definitely be better at that. But as someone who intends to provide value into the marketplace, it's incumbent upon me to keep my emotional state up as consistently as possible, so that when I do show up, when I do open my mouth and someone hears me, that it's like one of the things you put later in the list, or whoever the author was put later in the list, right? Concerning, and I don't have them in front of me, but you speak well, right? Essentially, I'll convert it to this. Do you think and speak on things of good report? In other words, I remember something Mother Teresa was being asked. Will you march with us? Will you demonstrate against the war? She said, no. But if you have a march for peace, I'll be there. Okay, so what's the difference? Well, listen to the words, right? For or against, right? So can we inspire others, including ourselves, right? Because I live here too. Can I keep more of my focus on where I'm going, my planned destination, my goals, than just trying to get out of the muck, the negative circumstances, the whatever, right? Because it's way more inspirational to move toward what we want than just out of what we don't want. Sorry for hijacking the call. That's what came up for me through that quiz. Thank you, Glenn.
Love it, John. It was a revealing look in the mirror for me as well. And I love what you said about, if I'm going to market, if I'm going to be an effective marketer, if I'm going to induce people to make a decision that's in their best interest, I'd better have my attitude together. By the way, the statement you were talking about, John, finally, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. So we got to guard what we're thinking about. You're absolutely spot on as usual. Mark, how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, Glenn. This is a great topic today for me. I just, damaging admission. I guess that's what I want to start out with. Well, I'll first, I scored a 120. It says that I have a good attitude, but I think what the word that's missing there is barely. I'm right on the verge, and I don't want to sound discontent, because I think where I started in March along this journey with the Success Mastermind and John has brought me a long ways, even from there. So I think I was deeper in the bowels when I started here. Just looking at all that was coming into the beginning of the year, and I just had sort of a default switch in that direction. And I am immensely grateful to John and this group and this family for what it's done. It's kind of stabilized, instead of these huge waves, now things are a little more even keeled, actually a lot more even keeled. I feel a lot more confident. So I've made great strides, I think, in that period of time. But it also says that I have a ways to go and that there's always room for improvement. And I will continue to strive for improvement each and every day. And I just, so I'm putting that out there, and I sit on the borderline, and it tells me that I need to focus. And I took a snapshot of the books that you put on that slide. I just need to increase my reading, in that positive realm. And I really do. I do my gratitudes every single day, the savers. I'm really focused, and it's very helpful. But I tell you, 40 years of certain ways of thinking, that's hard to turn off. That's a hard turn off switch in 6 months' time. Now it's immensely improved, and it will continue to improve. But I think the other thing that opened up for me was it's like you can't see the forest through the trees. I didn't realize how deep in I was until I got involved here. And that has really helped me immensely. So, and I'll, same like everybody else, I'll acknowledge the veterans, the first responders. I put a little blurb here in the chat, and I want to, put that out in my honor, my salute to everybody. And I also want to salute John and his family, because without you guys, I would not be on the cusp of a good attitude. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mark. You put me in mind of a phrase in talking about yourself being sort of on the borderline of borderline good attitude. Earl Nightingale, student of Napoleon Hill, yes, and one of the godfathers of the modern personal development movement, used a phrase that has stuck in my brain all these years. He talks about constructive discontent. You used the word discontent. And Earl Nightingale in his cassette tape series, Lead the Field, talks about the idea of constructive discontent, which is essentially the foundation of all human advancement. Somebody saw something, they weren't happy with it, and they decided to change it and make it better. So there you are. We've got Ego and then Gail. Ego OB. We know it's not about the hair. Fabulous. How are you?
It's not. Hi, Glenn. Oh, I actually really enjoyed that. And it was a revelation for me. I love the reflection, self-reflection, because I always say I have a positive attitude, which I believe I have. And it may be situational as well, but I came up with 130. So that was a good attitude. And I like the fact that it wasn't, like, I mean, John mentioned, if you score 135 plus, you're a liar. But, I always say I have a positive attitude. So see that, and, my responsives were just straight off the mark. I used a spreadsheet, so it'd be easy to calculate, and I'm not going back. But yeah, I mean, the fact that I have good attitude means that there's room for improvement, and that's an opportunity for growth, right? Because if I know that I'm aiming towards a positive attitude, which I think I have for the most part, but I guess I fall short in some areas. It just means that it's an opportunity for me to grow and be better versions of myself, because like you mentioned, if you're I think John mentioned that as well, showing up for people, I want to be consistent. People kind of look to me outside of, like my family and friends look to me for inspiration and stuff. So I want to be able to feed that, like positivity to them, that, that positive attitude to them. So, thanks for sharing it. And I know that there's room for growth, and, I always want to grow in everything that I do. So I'm working towards a positive attitude.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you, Ego. And by the way, you probably guessed by now that the scoring ranges in this test are not exactly one of the 4 laws of thermodynamics.
I know.
It's sort of fluid, yeah. If you know what I mean.
I know. It's something to work on, though, knowing that.
Yes.
Okay, you went through this quiz, and this is there's room to move from one level to the other. Right? It's growth. Either way, it's not a bad thing.
Indeed, right? Indeed. And it is very useful, I think, as John put it, as a snapshot. Where do I stand right now? And what can I work on, and so forth moving forward? Gail, and then the Laughing Irishman. How are you, Gail? How are you feeling? How's the back?
I'm feeling good, thank you. I'm much, much better.
Excellent.
Thank you. John, I'm not a liar. I got 135, and I believe I was honest in everything that I did. But if I had done this particular quiz in my 20s, I think I'd be on the bottom of the rung. And I've done a lot of work over the years on myself and understanding my world and the people in it. And I think that's helped me. And as I've gone through life, through other people making comments to me of how they perceive me, and I think, what? I don't feel like that, or I don't see that in myself. But over the years, I've come to accept that. And I know I have a ways to go, and I'm on the bottom of that positive thing at 135. I'd like to be able to improve. And that's what I keep working on in my life. And I think for me, I'm a happy person. After everything that I've gone through in my life, I have a deep-seated sense of peace within me, and nothing is going to take that away. So thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Contentment.
Yeah,
one of the secrets of life.
When people say happy, to me, that's not ha ha ha. To me, that's the sense of contentment that I feel. Happiness is contentment for me.
There you go. Love it. Love it. And you're getting a lot of love in the chat here, Gail. People are seeing that, and we see that in you, and we hear that in your words, and we're experiencing it in how you are conquering and recovering from your surgery and coming back strong. Love it. Love it. Father McDonald, what do you say?
Brother, how are you?
Doing good, Bill. What's happening?
Good, man. Firstly, Gail, yes, I would agree with you totally in that as we get older, we tend to have a better view of ourselves mostly. I also love the earrings, just by the by. I'm going to touch on what Mark was saying, and I know you'll probably guess that, but Mark was in that post for a very long time, and I know exactly where he's coming from. It isn't something you can switch off. It isn't something that you can change at the drop of a hat. It's all too easy to drop back into that way of thinking. I do it constantly. If I see somebody doing something stupid or that, I'm the first to throw out the swear word and tell them, you know, where to go and how to get there. Because I don't suffer fools gladly. And I know that can be a negative thing. It's incredibly difficult for anyone to continually achieve happiness inside and out. I can be the most happiest person on the outside when I'm engaging with lots of people. But inside, I definitely know that I'm a boat, as Earl Nightingale would say, without a chartered course or without a rudder. So it depends on what way the sea's going, and depends on what way the wind's blowing, could depend on how I turn up. Most times I know that if that's the case, then I have to work at that. It's up to me. And that's where your sort of false persona comes on. And this is when we all try to look happy, assume happy, and everybody thinks, hey, that guy's really, really, you know, he's always on top of the world. It's, you know, and inside you're not. You're couldn't give a toss about anything, frankly, you know, which is a very difficult thing to do. Well, I shouted at you earlier because you're like my old school teachers. Will you slow down? For some of us have brains that just take that little while to engage.
No, yeah. And look, there was a time. I want to say it was probably 10 years ago. Yeah, not 10, 12 years ago, somewhere in there. I was going through a very, very rough stretch in my personal life and personal career and everything else. And I was at a social occasion, social function. And a guy started to talk to me about, hey, man, you know, you ought to read Think and Grow Rich, or you ought to read Power Positive Thinking. And I said, pardon me. I said, man, get the fuck out of my face with that shit. I did that years ago with this, that, and the other business and blah, blah, blah. I've heard it all. I've read all the books. I don't want to hear it. Just get out of my face. And that's where I was at that time. And it wasn't just me, being a smart mouth, a smart aleck. That is actually how I felt. I was done with all that positive crap. I was, because of how the circumstances of my life were affecting me at that time. So it would be just ridiculous for me to point a finger or call somebody out and say, well, what's wrong with your attitude, man? You need to be more positive. Hey. Life is what happened to us while we were making other plans, right? And the beauty of this little quiz is that John has said it, so many of us have said it, and it bears repeating, that it's useful as a snapshot. It's useful to give us a view of where we are now and maybe give us a few hints about areas in our own mental makeup and our own mental attitude that we can stand to work on. So totally cool share, man. Love it, Bill. Thank you. Caroline and then Star. How do you do, Caroline?
Hi everyone. Haven't spoken for ages, so I thought I should just step up and say something before I just disappear completely. And then I nearly didn't say anything when John mentioned that thing about people lying if they got in the top bracket. So me, like Gail, I just sneaked in with 135, and I answered it really quickly. If I went through and did it slowly, maybe I'd think really hard about some of the things and change my mind. I don't know. But I think for me, I've had a good day today. And I think that is the thing. I've been speaking to new customers with a positive outcome. And that's just strengthened a belief in myself and a belief that everything's that I'm on track. If I'd done it a different day, it could have been a different result. So it was useful. But for me, there was a couple that I really hesitated before answering. And I was like, oh gosh, yeah, that's, and for me, it was still the stuff about believing in myself. That was where the positivity still wasn't as strong as some of the other stuff where I was like, yeah, 5, 5, 5, yeah, no problem. That was like, yeah. So it was good for identifying where the work still needs to be done.
There you go. Was it you, Caroline, that had mentioned, or someone in the group had mentioned one of the books on my list, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz.
Star is about that.
Well, yes. Let's hear more. Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome.
It's just an honest look is really what it is, right? And we can all stand a bit more of an honest look at ourselves. Helps us to improve. Star, hello.
Hi everybody. Firstly, I've missed a few bits. I've had a terrible internet connection. I completely missed Ego's share, and I just caught the
and the internet connection's arguing with you again. Yep.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Star. I can hear you right now at this moment. Go ahead.
I got confused with the quiz about which was 1 and which was 5. Can you please post it in the Facebook group?
Sure.
Because I would like to do it again.
Absolutely.
And because you were going so quick, even once I corrected. But in terms of positivity, yes, it is me that's been psycho-cybernetics up. And it's what's been helping me get out of my funk, as they say. And one of the things that is noted is that positivity just thrown on top can actually cause you to be worse if you have depressive tendencies. And if you are not doing it from your core self-image, and if it's not all matching up, if you have work to do beneath before you're doing your outward positivity, it can actually have the opposite effect on yourself. And that was one of the things that I've discovered lately, so if, like Glen, when you said that you were offered these books and you said bugger off, it's because you weren't ready for it. And had you taken it then and gone positivity, 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 and it not worked, you would have had a negative effect and gone further backwards, which is kind of where I feel that I went recently, because I was going so hell for leather with all this positivity. But what I've since discovered is that I was not at the right starting point for myself. And therefore it did cause a big dip when things were going wrong. And it's like you lose faith in the positivity. So there's definitely a zen, a place you need to be in order to, and as Stuart was talking about yesterday, the galvanization of the matter. And it's, yeah, you can get a false positive, I think, by, you want to be positive, but if you're not being honest with yourself that you're actually in the right place to accept the positivity, it can give you a false positive, I think. I hope everybody got that, because my internet connection has been terrible.
Yeah, we got it. We got it. And you're getting boatloads of love in the chat for being spot on as usual. You know, this whole assessment, again, it's certainly not meant to be scientific, and it's not a list of shoulds. The intention here is not for us to go through this thing shoulding all over ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a look at where am I now? And I begin from the foundation of telling myself the truth. Okay, where do I want to be? Here. I want to be here. Where am I now? Here. Okay, here's that gap in between. Okay, that's what I need to work on. And I would be, anyone would be doing you a disservice, or me a disservice, to say that we're wrong or there's something wrong with my attitude. This is where my attitude is at the moment. And there are questions to be answered and issues to be resolved within, no matter where we find ourselves on this range.
And if I may, that's exactly what, exactly what psycho-cybernetics is about. It's about being honest.
Yes.
Looking at yourself with kind eyes and being honest about where you are and working with yourself from where you are. Thank you.
Perfect. No comment, no further comment required. Thank you, Star. Great stuff. Neil and or Jane and then Ingrid. Neil, how do?
Hi, Glenn. You hear me?
Wait, you've just...
Okay.
There you go.
You can? Yeah, that's fine. Jane's here. She's sitting on the comfy seat.
Hey, Jane.
Hello. There was a lot that, obviously, this is a great subject because attitude is such an important thing, and there was a few issues or few examples that came up for me. For everybody on the other side of the pond, today's Remembrance Day for us here. It's just celebrated the nearest Sunday, which was last Sunday, but not only Remembrance Day for me, it's also the day that my father passed away a few years ago. Now, I could be very sad about that, and obviously I miss him, but he would not want that at all. He would certainly want me to be celebrating his life, and we always go and buy fish and chips because that's what he loves, his fish and chips. And so on his birthday and on the day that he passed away, we always go out and get his fish and chips. And
excellent.
He did national service, served in service and things like that. So it is a good day for us to remember him. But also, that obviously as a paramedic, my attitude, if I was to go out to patients with a negative attitude, both on my colleagues and also on the patients, I don't think that's going to go down very well. Luckily, I mean, I don't work online on an ambulance anymore. I work behind a desk. And so, however, but when I did that for about 10 or 11 years, you can imagine you can't have that sort of attitude at all. And the other thing that came to mind was, obviously, we're discussing my sweatshirt beforehand. I did dog agility with Lily. She's my Belgian Shepherd. We qualified for the Great Britain team last year. When we stand on the start line, I cannot have an attitude to think that we're not going to go around all of the obstacles clear and complete the round without knocking anything over, because you could bet your bottom dollar if I think that we're going to knock a jump over or she's going to miss a contact that she will do it. But if I know, if my attitude standing on the start is we are going to go around clear, then we will go around clear. And I don't know why that is, but there's that mental attitude. But exactly as Mark has said, and Bill, the attitude that you have personally for the last 40 years, how you get knocked so much, to now bring that personal positive attitude, which I know I've got in other areas in my life, is so difficult, and you can get knocked back so hard, especially as obviously all of you know, I've had a personal health issue over the last few weeks we've had to deal with, and that has knocked me for a little bit, and it just is so hard then to start thinking positively again. And I think that's why my score was, what was it? I think I had a positive attitude. It came out as 2, but then it's something I've started reading Miracle Morning again. I've just started to try and start the savers again, but it's like walking through treacle at the moment. And that's my share, really.
Well, thank you, Neil. It's all of this is part and parcel of the journey, and there's only one journey, right? And wherever we are along this road,
yeah,
again,
absolutely. And,
yeah. We've got, every one of us has got hurts and traumas and struggles that we have been or have been dealing with or are dealing with, something along those lines. And who was it? Was Star. We look at ourselves with kind eyes. We cut ourselves a break, knowing where we are and knowing that we are taking steps forward on the journey, however large or small. Ingrid, and then a goal for round 2. Ingrid, how are you? Ingrid, have we, okay, you're still muted there, Ingrid. Oh, there you go.
Am I good now? Awesome. So I find these things super interesting, mostly because of my son. So my son is a little bit of an Eeyore, and we were really, really concerned about it when he was little, because he was frankly suicidal at a really young age, and had a lot of psychiatric follow-up and et cetera, et cetera. And we were worried because his dad killed himself. So it's like, oh my God, let's not go down this road. And a lot of his therapy was about positivity.
Uh-oh. I think we may have had a temporary disconnection with Ingrid. We shall come back to her as soon as she gets on. In the meantime, Eggo, please come back. Oh, wait, you still there, Ingrid?
Am I there?
Ingrid, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Ah, there you go.
Okay, so what was interesting is that Luke was really unhappy with all this positivity. He was just unhappy with it, because I think it's like Star says, it wasn't where he was at. And now he's actually doing.
I think Ingrid may, are you back, Ingrid?
Can you hear me now?
We can now.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry. So it's actually doing much better. He's still Eeyore, and that's just where he's at. And I think, like Star says, if we're working on being positive, but you're not there, it can be really harmful. So I'm not sure that we all need to be super positive all the time. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I would hasten to mention again that this whole topic today, this whole conversation it is certainly not meant as a value judgment. Certainly not meant to say, well, you should be thinking this way. You're supposed to be positive. Again, it's a snapshot. And wherever each of us is, it can give us insight into where we need to go. I do not dare comment, Ingrid, on your journey with your son. And I'm thrilled to hear that he's doing so much better. And ultimately, we are each of us going to choose choose the frame of mind. We're each going to choose the mental state that works best for us at this particular time in our life. Does that make sense? We shall come back. Ego, you had your hand up. Please go forward.
Right, I'm muted. So it's something Neil said that kind of triggered something that happened today. Mm-hmm. So Neil mentioned remember and celebrate. And that reminded me of a conversation I had with someone today who interviewed me for a women's program. And she asked me what were, she asked about how I've overcome some challenges in my life and progressed in my career. And she specifically asked about the triple bereavement. Mm. And she asked me if, what my memories were of my dad, my sister, and my mom. And all the memories I shared, or that came to mind, were fun memories and happy memories. And for the first time since the three of them passed away, it was the first time that I've talked about them without getting emotional. And I can't explain that right now because it happened just before this call. And then we talked about celebrating them, remembering and celebrating, although those two words weren't used together. But when Neil mentioned that, it just kind of prompted, it just kind of jogged my memory on the conversation I had the hour before this call. So I think that's a good thing.
Sounds like a good thing to me. Yeah. I was told once that when a difficult incident or a difficult memory from my past no longer triggers the emotional response that was once attached to it, it's a pretty good sign that I've largely gotten over whatever that hurt was. I remember fondly the person who passed, or I remember with insight the incident that took place, and it no longer has the emotional control over me that it once did. That sounds like a pretty good place to be, in my opinion. I hope that we can all kind of have a look at this. The little quiz today, again, the idea was to kind of say, okay, where am I on the road? Where am I in my mindset journey? Where am I in my attitude journey? If I need to be here, then let me go ahead and be here and not beat myself up for not being over there. We are where we are, and I think we can all agree that our intention is to bring the impression of increase into our own lives, our intention is to be continually working on improving our own mindset, our own attitude, and our own actions and performance on a daily basis. I heard somebody say one time, if I just improve myself 1% per day, where could I be in a year? Certainly won't want anybody, certainly wouldn't advise anybody to turn into Pollyanna tomorrow morning. If that's not where you are, then that's not where you are. Let's be aware and truthful and honest with ourselves about where we are, set our intention, and then begin to move toward that goal 1% at a time. 1% at a time. Treating ourselves with love along the way. Hey, now, unless there is another thought burning a hole in the pocket of someone's mind, we may be able to move right along. I've got to go and jump right back into the convention sessions. Oh boy, what a day this has been. What a rare mood I'm in. I'm sorry. I haven't gotten much sleep last night. So if I seem a little giddy, well, that probably affected my score too, by the way, which most people would think I'm lying. Thank you, John, for creating this safe space for us to come in here and love on each other the way we do. Thank you all so much. Remember, we've got the hospitality suite, books for Britain at 4 Eastern, Life and Business Tools at 6 Eastern, and then Networking Magic at 9 Eastern. Thank you all so much for joining us. And the John Lavenia Success Mastermind. Live long and prosper.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you.